Welcome to my rework ideas for all 7 gathering skills. First off would have to be the archaeology skill, and this has a couple things that does need to be improved on. And one, what if our research team was able to gather one specific material, probably about 20 materials per hour, and then we'll send them off for 24 hours. This would be very good if, let's say, you're in iron farming to make the binding contracts, because those materials are rather hard to get because you have to fight with a ton of bots. And for players that do like to log in as a little daily scape, this could be a viable way to reduce some of the expensive materials or get certain ones, depending on once you're past 120 archaeology, you can start farming the 115 and 119 spots on your way to 200 mil, in which case you could spend your chronotes and then have the mission sent off to farm one specific material of your choosing. Now another idea would be, what if we had an archaeology collection bag, just like the gizmo bag, how we're able to upgrade it, and it'll hold, let's say you're opening the tetra compasses, it'll collect and destroy all the artifacts from level 1 to level 20 archaeology. The tier 2 will destroy from level 1 to level 40. The tier 3 will destroy 1 to tier 60 artifacts gained while you are doing the tetra compasses. Now, this won't physically remove them from the drop, it will just destroy them so that it does not fill up your bank space. Because if you're opening a ton amount of tetra compasses, you will need to have 130 plus bank space available because you have access to getting all of those materials. But if you're able to destroy them, it would be a little bit of an improvement for your bank, because usually you have to pretty much get rid of everything in your bank to make as much bank room as possible before opening the tetra compasses. For the next skill would have to be divination. The biggest issue is that once you are 95 divination or lower using an extreme divination potion, you will be forced to log into world 79 for the enriched versions. This does include if you are an Iron Man going for the divine charges. And this is because people pretty much non-stop spawn the enriched versions of it. I would love for 2 things to happen. Either option 1, have the enriched spawn every 5 minutes like it used to back in the day, except I think it was every 10 minutes. So either bring that back or fix the invisible click boxes that does happen on the enriched versions, in which case players will have to surge, blade dive, go to around this bridge, and then come back, and hopefully you're able to click on that wisp. And since usually the world does have 800 plus people, the amount of lag is horrible, in which case it does break being able to click on the wisp, or have the ability to hide other players to avoid crashing. This is just a little bit easier on their engines as well if we're able to hide players, but mainly for, I guess, divination. I mean, that's pretty much about it, because no other skilling location has a ton of people. Maybe fishing hub, but it's not really much in demand compared to how much divination you have to do, and if you're going for the divine energy to make the divine charges. Next up will be farming, which has gotten a good amount of updates, mainly that herbs now take 1 hour instead of 85 minutes, which means you can do this every single hour. And they did remove the herb drops from most bosses and turn them into seeds. A very good update I would love to see is a viable way to get the herbs as like the seed drops. Because once you start doing herb runs every single hour, and if you are choosing to place 10 seeds in the patch, you are going to need a massive amount because there is 8 other patches. So you'll need 80 seeds every single hour. They have been doing little updates that does help the low-level seeds on the speed. However, there is no viable way to get the higher tier seeds at such a quick rate. An example would be the Ivanto seeds. And this is, again, if we're using all 8 farming patches with 10 seeds enabled, so we would need 80. Ivanto, you're able to get 56 seeds an hour max. Now granted, you do have to farm that for a very long time to make the super energy potions, to make the adrenaline potions, so it can be a very long process. And again, you only get 56 seeds within the whole hour, and you need about 80 seeds, in which case you're not able to get the seeds quick enough because you use more than what you would get, which would be quite a good option if, let's say, the favor that we are getting, much like the Minesweeper minigame, what if we're able to buy the herb seeds at a very realistic price, that it would be a viable method to start getting the seeds from that way, and it will be forced to other players to train the farming skill as well. For the next skill, which is fishing. For the Fish Flinger's reward shop, there is an effect that allows us to catch double the fish for the next 20 minutes. That does require 100 tokens. What if there was a viable gold sink in the fishing hub? Let's say we have to donate probably 50k GP to get this effect instead of having to do fish flingers. And then we'll go and actually train fishing within the fishing hub, and it will work for the fishing guild, which would be pretty nice too for players wanting to fish just sharks specifically, so that while you are fishing, let's say just sailfish, that you'll start getting double. Now the XP is the same, however, you'll be getting double the amount of resources, which will help bring more raw supplies in game once they remove the raw fish drops from all the bosses. Because again, if you're doing like rots or Gower Dungeon 2, that is pretty much the realistic way of getting the raw food or cooked versions of it faster than you would normally get from skilling. Because right now for fishing, you're able to get about 300 sailfish, in which case you have to cook. But if you're doing rots, some hours you're able to get up to 6 or even 800 raw rocktails an hour, in which case why would you even be bother fishing when you can get almost double of that, PVM drops, and progression towards the account, in which case you could also sell those malevolent energy, as they are 800k. So for fishing, there is no reason to actually be training the skill once you do have the PVM stats to start getting the drops from elsewhere. And fishing is like no GB per hour, because again, you can do rots for that, for the food supply, and you're getting pretty much everything else along with it. For Hunter, there is a couple AFK methods, and that will be at the Croesus font, collecting the fungus, which does require a ton amount of sign up porters. Or you could also do butterflies or charming moths. However, what I have noticed is that there is no viable method to AFK, let's say like box traps. I know there is an electric version of the trap, but that just bypasses needing the little special secondary ingredient used to catch them. An example like raw papaya meat to collect grinwalls. But what if traps were able to hold 3 to up to 5 of the same monster will collect it? Now this will make Hunter a little bit more AFK, and it will be a viable method of collecting resources for skilling and PVM for like gray and red chinchompas along with the skill chinchompas. And this could also work for some other box type of stuff, not for nets, only for box. This is because chins are pretty much mandatory for their AoE and for the grind hunt of collecting for your player owned farms. Next up would have to be the mining skill, and this is the same concept against all of the choices I'm going to say, and that would be your ore or your gems automatically go in either the gem bag while you are mining it, and the same goes for the ore box, and of course increase the amount of storage of them to maybe about 500 of each ore. Now, one, this would reduce the amount of sign up porters needed, and two, while you are mining gem rocks, you do have to pay attention to your stamina bar. It's completely different because while you're mining the regular ore, you do have stone sprites, in which case you get double the ore, and if you're using the Juju potion, when you use a stone sprite, your stamina bar goes up all the way. Another idea I did have was a pure essence bag type of thing that you can just AFK mining for the pure essence because you get 4 to 5, pretty much a tick. So to get a full inventory takes like 4 seconds, and then you gotta teleport, run back, go to the bank, teleport back. It's just annoying. And then the only realistic way to get pure essence is one, through killing Abyssal, Beast, or Savage, as they are a very good method, or Abyssal Demons. But if we were able to mine it while using the sign of Porter and dropping all the possible pure essence you could get 2,800 pure essence an hour. But to use that for rune crafting, that is not enough for a full hour. In fact, I was averaging about 6,000 pure essence while rune crafting. Woodcutting has gotten some nice updates lately, and that would be the Sena's Fire Torch, which does have a plus 6% chance of woodcutting rate and a 20% chance to get an extra log while woodcutting. But what if we were to make this even better, and the torch would able to just double the amount of logs while you are wood cutting, and it'll have a 20% chance to bank that log for you without the use of using sign of porters, so that one, you'll be able to get a massive amount of logs per hour. So it would be wise to look into a way to remove logs from boss drops, because once you do, let's say, Queen Black Dragon, that is the best way to get you logs instead of wood cutting them. And the same goes for magic logs. There is other sources through PVM that you're able to get skilling resources much quicker than actually training the skill. Except, luckily, there is no method to get a massive amount of elder logs, except the daily, I think his name is Kronos or something in Prithenius in the Cardan district, once you have completed the elite elven task.